Coming up, as we pass the midway point of this general election cycle, this week saw the second and final leaders' televised debates and the release of the party manifestos. Labour's poll lead remains stubbornly huge and, if anything, has increased slightly since the beginning of this campaign. But the accepted view is that there is no great enthusiasm for Kier Starmer's Labour Party, but more an overwhelming dislike of Rishi Sunak and his Tory Party. And there's a symmetry to this in the general election campaign so far at the halfway stage. Kier Starmer being robotic and boring, like someone prompted ChatGPT 4.0 to respond in the manner of an identikit Prime Minister, carrying his ming vase and reminding everyone what his parents did for a living at every God-given opportunity. But when you're 43-22 ahead, according to the latest poll trackers, that strategy is clearly working. By contrast, Rishi Sunak has so far run what must be the worst and most cringey campaign in history. In this video, we'll be reviewing some of Sunak's recent unforced errors and missed opportunities, so grab your popcorn and stay tuned. Before we get into it, a big thank you to Truth to Power's generous Super Thanks contributors and those of you that leave comments, like and share the videos, and those of you who subscribe to the channel. Much appreciated. So, after the second and final leaders' debate this week, it looks like Sunak has blown yet another chance to shift the dial on the polling numbers, with the YouGov poll afterwards suggesting viewers named Starmer as the winner by a ratio of almost 2-1. I won't give an analysis of the debate, but for me, the highlight was the moment that moderator Beth Rigby presented Sunak with an open goal. She told him, "You were once popular. You were dishy Rishi."
Now, I just want to ask you one more thing. You were once popular. You were dishy Rishi. Do you remember? Can you tell our audience something about you that might make them like you a bit more again?
Well, actually, funnily enough, people seem to think I have a very kind of healthy lifestyle and I go to the gym and this is an obsession about my fasting. But I actually have an appalling diet because I eat an enormous amount of sugar and I'm very unhealthy in that regard, which I was talking to someone today about. They were completely shocked. I'm not sure that's not really something that someone needs to like me more or less, but that's something I was talking to someone today and they're genuinely surprised about the amount of Haribos, Twixes and everything else that I get through.
I mean, the guy could have said, "I donate to my local donkey sanctuary. I help old ladies across the road." Or even, God forbid, "I pledge to prosecute every one of those Tory cronies and donors who defrauded the government with dodgy PPE." But no, he went with, "I eat a lot of Twix and Haribo." He could have made that opportunity into a turning point for his campaign, but as we see time and time again, Rishi Sunak just isn't very good at being a politician. It was over a week previously that he abandoned the 80th anniversary D-Day commemorations in order to return to London for a pre-recorded interview with ITV. Although my theory is that the prime motivation for him to swerve the international bit of the commemorations was to avoid fraternising with other European leaders, as he would have been scared stiff that Nigel Farage and the Faragists within his own party would accuse him of wanting to cosy up to Europe again. The decision to leave the commemorations early is, quite honestly, without exaggeration, the worst political decision I've seen in any election campaign in my lifetime. I mean, Gordon Brown calling one of his own voters a bigoted woman on a hot mic really hurt his election campaign, but that looks frivolous compared to this planned and premeditated decision to jump in a helicopter and hot-foot it back for a political interview in order to get one over, so he thought, on opposition leader Kier Starmer. Even Conservative commentator and creator of Conservative Home, Tim Montgomery, called it political malpractice of the highest order. But Sunak's apology called on people not to politicise his decision to prioritise a political opportunity over World War II veterans.
I returned home before the international leaders event later in the day. On reflection, that was a mistake and I apologise. I think it's important, though, given the enormity of the sacrifice made, that we don't politicise this.
You couldn't make it up. Since Sunak's campaign-defining D-Day shocker, we've had the release of the Tory Party Manifesto, which, by the way, was brutally battered by the Institute of Fiscal Studies. Hardly a subversive left-wing collection of Guardian-reading, tofu-eating wokerati. Paul Johnson, IFS director, said, "The Conservatives have promised some £17 billion per year of tax cuts and a big hike in defence spending. That is supposedly funded by reducing the projected welfare bill by £12 billion, cracking down on tax avoidance and evasion, and saving billions from cutting civil service numbers, reducing spending on management consultants and quango efficiencies. Those are definite giveaways paid for by uncertain, unspecific and apparently victimless savings. Forgive a degree of scepticism." But even after the release of the Tory Manifesto, Sunak was still facing anger over his abandonment of the D-Day commemorations, particularly when the ITV interview he'd returned home for eventually aired on Wednesday this week, opening with Sunak apologising to presenter Paul Brand that the commemorations in Normandy had run over and made him late. Get ready to cringe.
Prime Minister.
Gosh, hello.
Good to see you.
Very nice to see you. Hey, sorry to
I'm
have
well,
kept
thank
you.
you. No, not at all. I know you've been in Normandy.
Yeah, it all just ran over. It was incredible, but it just ran over everything.
I'm sure it was
So apologies for keeping you.
No, not at all. I'm sure it was a
Like this week's leaders' debate, there appeared to me to be a key moment in this interview where Sunak was presented with a golden opportunity to wrest control of the narrative and start to close the polling gap. What do you make of this? Sunak clearly ill at ease, not really relating to a question about deprivation, and then coming up with the ludicrous example of Sky TV, which, when he was a child in the 1980s and early 90s, was snobbishly seen by middle-class folk like his parents as being associated more with the working classes and council estates in their view.
What did you go without as a child?
We went out with lots of things, right? Because my parents wanted to put everything into our education, and that was a priority.
So what sort of things had to be sacrificed?
Lots of things, right?
Can you give me an example of
All
something?
sorts of things. So, like lots of people, there'll be all sorts of things that I would have wanted as a kid that I couldn't have, right? Famously, Sky TV. So that was something that we never had growing up, actually.
Beth Rigby referred to his previous nickname of Dishy Rishi, but after this interview, he'll now be known as No Dishy Rishi. The interview was prioritised by Rishi Sunak over the D-Day commemorations as he saw it as an opportunity to double down on his completely fictitious claim that Labour were going to increase taxes on every working family by over £2,000. After being branded a liar by Labour figures and having been shot down by fact-checkers, he still insisted, MAGA-like, on stating his alternative facts.
You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving, Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
Wait a minute. Alternative facts? Alternative facts, 4 of the 5 facts he uttered. The one thing he got right was Zeke Miller. 4 of the 5 facts he uttered were just not true.
Say it often enough and people start to believe it, I guess he thinks. And this again is pure Rishi. Rather than positively campaigning for some sort of Tory vision for the next 5 years, many of his slips have been made whilst negatively campaigning, attacking the opposition. For example, in the leadership debate this week, he mentioned Kier Starmer 17 times. Kier Starmer mentioned Sunak once. It's like Sunak's fear has led to his vulnerability to gaffes. Here's an earlier example of this from the week before. Sunak's team put out an attack video which was rapidly turned against them by Labour's suddenly excellent social media team.
Today, I'm going to be doing an explainer on Labour's policy for our country's future. Here we go again. Today, I'm going to be doing an explainer on Labour's policy for our country's future.
But there have been many other unforced errors by Sunak and the Tories that were purely self-inflicted. Earlier in the campaign, Sunak gave a speech about getting rid of what he called Mickey Mouse degrees, by which he meant those degrees that didn't lead to high employment rates, because Tories failed to understand the crucial distinction between the concept of education and the concept of training. Students to them are just potential production units. But the whole speech was delivered in front of a backdrop that made it appear as though Sunak had Mickey Mouse ears. Now, I know that's not important, it might be trivial, but it's these small things that have eaten away at his veneer of competence and credibility to show someone who is completely out of their depth at politics. Another example was the posed-for photographs on a plane with Sunak positioned under the exit sign. Another "doh" moment. It's like his own advisors had taken the piss out of him. An idea, by the way, that gained further credence a couple of days ago when it emerged that his closest aide, MP Craig Williams, bet £100 on a July election just 3 days before it was announced. And it's not just his aides, even his own ministers are taking the piss. A leaked memo from the Conservative Party's headquarters accusing Tory MPs of failing to pull their weight on the campaign trail was accidentally sent to the wrong address list. The email named and shamed those MPs who were refusing to knock on doors or had taken time off to attend family events. This included self-styled Brexit hardman, the ludicrous Steve Baker, Northern Ireland minister, who told the Daily Mirror, "The Prime Minister told everyone we could go on holiday and then called a snap election, so I've chosen to do my campaign work in Greece." This all followed Sunak's disastrous visit to Wales, where he asked workers at a brewery whether they were looking forward to the football this summer. Unfortunately for Sunak, Wales did not qualify for the European Championships, making him look incredibly out of touch and a right idiot, to be honest.
Is he looking forward to all the football?
Not so much my bag.
Well,
no, but that's because you guys aren't in it.
Then there was the visit to a distribution warehouse in Derbyshire, where he was asked questions by 2 Tory councillors posing as warehouse workers in high-vis jackets.
Who's got some hands up? Right, OK, let's start there and let's go there. Brilliant, right.
So, thank you and welcome to Area Wash. You've talked a lot about the economy, specific to everybody, cost of living crisis.
Yep.
What's been done and what sets you apart for the future?
Thank you for coming to Area Wash this morning. I imagine you're a pretty busy guy right now. The biggest issue, I think, is going to be immigration over this general election campaign. You've obviously got your Rwanda plan, but is it going to see results and stop the small boats coming?
Yeah, thank you, you're right.
And who can forget Sunak's decision to visit the Titanic Quarter in Belfast, leading to the obvious question from this journalist.
Prime Minister, we are just yards away from where the Titanic was built and designed. Are you captaining a sinking ship going into this election?
Rishi Sunak's election campaign has been marred by so many gaffes that Baroness Ruth Davidson, the former Scottish Tory leader, wondered whether a mole had been planted inside CCHQ to sabotage Sunak's efforts. It was Sunak's own team that made the decision to send their man out to announce a general election when rain was about to start pouring and the Labour Party theme tune from 1997, Things Can Only Get Better, was blaring out from Steve Bray's loudspeakers, conveniently placed nearby.
we've reformed education and our children are now the best readers in the Western world. We've prioritised energy security and your family finances over environmental dogma in our approach to net zero.
Start as you mean to go on, they say.
It's getting better and better. Oh gosh, we're going to keep going. Right, okay. So that's interesting. Fine. And then were you all, one of you said you weren't particularly sporty beforehand.
I was not sporty at all.
So you can pick it up.
Yeah, you can pick it. I think it's actually a sport.